The convoy had been idle for nearly 3 minutes when Petty Officer Colt Harlow felt the weight of silence pressing in and realized they weren't alone in the jungle. His radio hissed to life with faint whispers, barely audible through the static. Multiple contacts detected, surrounded, an estimated 50 or more hostiles. The SEAL team's mission had been simple: extract a high-value intelligence source from deep within the Kontu Mindoro jungle. But instead of a clean extraction, they'd rolled straight into a trap that had been waiting patiently, like predators watching their prey from the dark. Thick trees hemmed them in from every side, turning the world into a living wall of green. Somewhere in that suffocating maze, enemy fighters were tightening their circle. Colt could hear the thud of his own pulse, feel sweat trace a path down his spine despite the discipline drilled into him by years of combat. This was the nightmare every operator feared, pinned down on a narrow jungle road, nowhere to maneuver, surrounded by an enemy that knew every leaf, every shadow, every ambush point by heart. Then a sound sliced through the darkness beyond their perimeter. A sharp, unmistakable crack of an tuned for precision. One shot, one target down. Another burst echoed seconds later. Another kill. Someone unseen was out there, turning the hunters into the hunted. And when Staff Sergeant Devra Shaw stepped from the tree line with smoke still curling from her rifle barrel and 17 confirmed kills behind her, the SEALs learned firsthand a truth whispered in every special operations school. The deadliest operator is the one you never spot coming, especially when she's been tracking you for days and knows this jungle better than you know your own base. The briefing that had sent her here had sounded deceptively straightforward, and that, she should have realized, was her first warning sign. After 8 years in Army Special Operations, Devra knew that straightforward was a word spoken by officers in air-conditioned rooms who never had to crawl through triple canopy hell under gunfire. Your team will provide overwatch for the SEAL extraction, the briefer had said, tapping a satellite image of Mindoro that looked like green chaos even from orbit. They're pulling a cartel informant with intel on weapons routes. You'll take position on this ridge, he'd added, pointing at the map, and provide early warning and sniper coverage. Devra had studied that terrain the way she studied every battlefield, meticulously, until she could feel its contours in her bones. The ridge overlooked a narrow dirt road twisting like a snake through the jungle. Thick canopy, limited visibility, no alternate route for vehicles. It was the kind of ground where even a routine extraction could turn into a massacre if someone patient enough prepared it right. "What's the threat?" she'd asked. "Local cartel muscle," came the reply. "Maybe 10 men with small arms. Nothing your team can't handle." That had been her second warning. She'd operated in Mindoro before and knew that local security could mean anything, from reckless teens with pistols to ex-military contractors with training equal to her own. And maybe 10 usually meant 20, or more, if the mission had leaked. But orders were orders, so Devra led her 3-person sniper team into the field. Santos on the spotting scope, Reese handling comms, and Holt guarding their rear. They infiltrated 3 days before the scheduled extraction, moving with the deliberate care born from years of experience in jungles so dense you couldn't see 10 feet ahead. They'd inserted at night by helicopter, fast roping into a clearing 5 kilometers from target, burying their ropes, masking the landing zone, and melting into the undergrowth before anyone could register the noise. Progress was painfully slow, 4 hours to cover what might have taken 40 minutes in open terrain, because in jungle warfare, haste was suicide. patience kept you breathing. They finally reached the ridgeline and built their hide with the precision that separated professionals from the rest. Flawless camouflage, minimal disturbance to foliage, clear lines of sight to the road below, and fallback routes in case things went sideways. Santos set up the scope, Reese linked comms with command, and Holt covered their back trail. Then came the waiting. 3 long days of heat, insects, and silence broken only by distant sounds of life. They ate cold rations, filtered stream water, and watched the road endlessly through glass, memorizing every truck, every passerby, every rhythm until the terrain itself became a map imprinted in Devra's mind. Learning the terrain like a surgeon learns anatomy, every tree and shadow engraved in Devra's memory. And during those 3 long days, she noticed things that made the back of her neck prickle. Fresh boot prints that didn't fit local patterns. Radio traffic in the distance that sounded like organized military comms. Movement in the jungle was too coordinated, too disciplined to be random farmers or hunters. "Someone's setting an ambush," she told Santos on the second day, watching men move through the trees below through her scope. "Look at how they're arranged. They're laying a kill zone along the road." Santos glassed the area and counted positions through his spotting scope. "I make it 15, no, 20 fighting positions, crew-served weapons." He said it flat. "This isn't cartel muscle. It's a professional military setup." Devra called it in to command without hesitation. "Overwatch 1 to base. Enemy force on objective. Estimate 20+ hostiles with crew-served weapons establishing ambush along the extraction route. Recommend abort and find alternate exfil." The reply was exactly what she'd feared. "Base to Overwatch 1, SEAL element already inbound. Maintain position and provide support. Do not compromise your hide site." Translation: the operation was too far advanced to cancel and too politically sensitive to delay. The SEALs were driving into a planned trap, and Devra's team, 700 meters away, was expected to somehow change the odds from their perch. "This is going to be bad," Holt muttered from his watch. "Yeah," Devra said. "So we have to be perfect." She spent the next 24 hours planning shots, measuring ranges, factoring wind, humidity, and temperature, and picking high-value targets. Enemy leaders, crew-served weapon crews, anyone coordinating the ambush. Her rifle, an M4 she'd modified for precision, was zeroed for these exact conditions. She'd made shots like this before, Afghanistan, Iraq, and places that never showed up on deployment records, but never with an entire SEAL team riding on her ability to turn a catastrophe into something survivable. The SEAL convoy arrived on schedule. 3 vehicles crawling down the jungle road, operators tense, weapons at ready. From her elevated position, Devra could see their stiffness. Good operators always sensed when eyes were on them. 200 meters into the kill zone, the trap detonated. The lead vehicle struck an IED buried in the road, flipping the armored SUV onto its side and blocking the route forward. At the same time, RPGs streaked from both flanks. Machine gun fire erupted from concealed positions, tracer webs cutting the kill zone into a curtain of death. The SEALs reacted with the reflexes of veterans. They bailed out, returned fire, tried to form a perimeter, but they were stuck on a narrow road with limited cover, taking fire from elevated positions and both directions. Their forward route blocked and withdrawal under fire. Devra watched the tactical picture unfold in nightmare clarity through her scope. The SEALs were as skilled as advertised, among the best in the world. But skill needs space to work, and the ambush had been designed to remove that option. "Command DBI, this is Overwatch 1, Reese said into the radio, voice tight with urgency. SEAL element in contact. Heavy casualties expected. Immediate support required. Overwatch 1, what support can you provide? Devra did the math in seconds. From her vantage, she counted 17 distinct enemy fighting positions. Her team had 4 rifles, even if every shot was perfect. And in combat, nobody was perfect. They couldn't eliminate enough targets fast enough to break the ambush before the SEALs were overrun. Santos, she said quietly, count our ammo. He checked. You've got 60 rounds match grade. I've got 40 standard, she replied. Holt and Reese on basic combat loads. 60 rounds, 17 enemy positions, many with multiple fighters. The arithmetic was brutal. Here's the plan, Devra said with a calm that came when fear turned to focus. I'm going down there. Silence fell, the sound of 3 operators absorbing what they just heard. Santos warned carefully, Devra, if you leave this position, you'll be in the jungle against an unknown number of hostiles with no immediate support. I'll be mobile, she answered. I'll flank their positions and do what I do best. She was already fitting magazines, checking her rifle. You 3 stay put. Provide fire support where you can. Call for air, medevac, everything. But those SEALs are dying right now, and I'm the only asset close enough. This is insane, Holt said. Probably, Devra agreed. But it's necessary. She named Santos team leader until she returned. So if I'm not back in 2 hours, assume I'm KIA and exfil using Route Charlie. She didn't wait for an acknowledgement. She made the decision, second-guessing would waste the time the SEALs didn't have, and slipped over the ridgeline into the jungle, moving with the silent fluency she'd learned from trackers across continents. Devra slipped over the ridgeline and vanished into the green, moving with the silent, fluid steps she'd learned from trackers across continents. The jungle closed around her like a living thing. Thick growth that cut sightlines to meters, noises that could be wind or movement, and shadows that tricked the eye. But after 3 days, she knew this ground intimately. The paths and clearings and the thin spots in the undergrowth that let her move fast. She headed toward the gunfire, letting the noise cover her approach, pausing every few meters to listen and sweep with her scope. The enemy were fixated on the road, and the SEALs trapped there. Their flanks were blind to a threat from the jungle, and that would be their undoing. Devra found her first target 70 meters off the road, a heavy machine gun crew of 3, prone behind a fallen log she settled into, breathing slow, range about 120 meters through dense foliage, a tough shot but well inside her skill. She saw the gunner in her crosshairs, made tiny wind corrections, and squeezed. The suppressed round barely registered over the firefight as the gunner collapsed across his weapon. Before the assistant could react, Devra shifted, fired again, and he went down. The spotter spun to find the shooter, and her third round caught him before he could call out. 3 gone, 14 positions left. She moved immediately. Staying put after firing was suicide. Flowing through the jungle like water, using every scrap of concealment, and keeping brush between her and anyone who might see her. Behind her came the confused shouting of fighters trying to figure what took out their MG crew. Her second target was an RPG team prepping to fire on the convoy. 2 men, launcher, and ammo. Devra slid behind a tree, acquired both in quick order, and 2 shots 2 seconds apart, put them both down. Now the enemy realized something was wrong. Orders rang out in Filipino. Fighters repositioned to search the flanks, but they had no idea where she was and couldn't predict her next appearance. She found a sniper up a tree, professional hide with clear sightlines to the road. He was so absorbed in his scope, He never saw her until a round through his torso sent him tumbling. 6 down, 11 to go. The enemy adapted, pulling men from the road to sweep the jungle. They were louder, clumsier, flashing lights that betrayed positions she avoided while she circled to strike another MG nest from an unexpected vector. This one had 4 fighters. Devra dropped the first 2 with rapid, surgical shots, but the third got his weapon up and barked a burst. Rounds shredded the canopy above her as she rolled for cover. The fourth moved to flank her when Santos's rifle cracked from the ridge, a long-range shot that dropped him. Using that distraction, Devra finished the third and moved again before they could coordinate a counter. She was burning ammo faster than planned, but letting the SEALs die wasn't an option. Her radio spat. "Overwatch 1, this is SEAL 6. Wounded, low on ammo, 30 seconds from being overrun. Do whatever you're doing. Do it faster." Devra checked her count. 20 rounds in the magazine, 2 full mags on her belt, 60 rounds started, now down to 40, having cleared only about 8 positions. The math still didn't add up unless she changed it. She'd been avoiding the enemy command cluster, fighters with superior kit, radios, the brains of the ambush. Taking them out was high risk, but would decapitate their coordination. Time forced her hand. She moved toward the command node with aggressive speed, abandoning some caution because the clock had run out. Through the trees, she could see 6, maybe 7 fighters clustered around a man barking orders. She dropped into a prone firing position at 90 meters, uncomfortably close for this engagement, and through her scope picked the leader first. 1 center mass round, and he went down. She shifted to the radio operator and killed comms, then to the 2 most competent fighters. 4 shots, 4 seconds, 4 enemy down. The rest scattered. Devra tracked one as he ran for cover and sent him down before he could find it. Another sprinted toward the road, and she let him close a bit, squeezed the trigger, and watched him fall. The last shooter had gone prone, trying to line up on her. Devra rolled left the instant his rifle cracked, the round slicing close enough for her to hear it whistle by. She came up in a new position, spotted him through her scope, squeezed off a single round. He dropped and didn't move again. 11 positions cleared, the ambush disintegrating. The once tight assault unraveled into confusion as the enemy lost both leadership and heavy guns. The SEALs pressed the advantage, moving out of the kill zone, cutting down the remaining hostiles with the precision of men who'd just been handed a second life. "SEAL 6, this is Overwatch 1, she radioed. "Enemy command eliminated. Roughly a dozen hostiles left, disorganized. Recommend aggressive push to finish." "Overwatch 1, copy. Who the hell are you? And how many of you are out there?" "Just me," she said, swapping magazines. "And I'm almost dry, so whatever you're gonna do it fast." Laughter crackled over the radio, edged and manic, the sound soldiers make after cheating death. "Copy that, Overwatch. We're moving. And when this is over, you've got a drink waiting." Devra stayed on scope as the SEALs broke free, taking down 2 more fighters trying to regroup and another setting up an RPG. Her magazine went empty. She slammed in her last. 20 rounds left. The SEALs pushed through what was left of the resistance, their training and coordination tearing apart the disorganized enemy. 10 minutes later, the kill zone was quiet. Bodies, shell casings, and smoke the only proof a battle had happened. She waited until she was sure it was done, then started the slow hike back to the ridge. She'd been in hostile terrain 40 minutes, burned most of her ammo, and stretched her luck beyond sane limits. Halfway up, she caught movement behind her. Too close. too soft to be friendly. She spun, rifle up, just as an enemy fighter raised his AK. His finger tightened on the trigger. Devra dove aside as rounds hissed past her head. She hit the ground, rolled, brought her rifle up, and fired twice, center mass. He dropped, his burst missing by inches. Her hands trembled from the adrenaline dump, from knowing how close it had been. "Overwatch 1, this is Santos," the radio crackled. "What was that shooting?" "Contact. Handled. En route to rally." "Copy and Devra. That was the craziest thing I've ever seen. Remind me never to piss you off." She made it back to the hide, just as the sunset turned the jungle gold. Santos, Reese, and Holt were breaking down gear, relief and disbelief mixing on their faces. 17 confirmed, Santos said quietly. "I was spotting for you. 17 down. Most never saw you. That's legend-level shooting." "It was necessary shooting," Devra corrected. "And it's only legend if we walk out alive. Let's move before someone comes looking." They exfilled along a new route, moving through the night under NVGs, nerves tight from knowing one mistake could end them. 8 hours later, the helicopter lifted them out. At the forward base, the SEALs were waiting, bandaged, filthy, but alive, eyes holding that hollow relief of survivors. Their commander, Lantern CMDR Colt Harlow, met Devra as she stepped off the ramp. "Staff Sergeant Shaw," he said, voice rough, "we owe you our lives. You owe your lives to your training and to not freezing under fire," she answered evenly. "I just tipped the odds." "Tipped?" Harlow barked a short laugh. "You dismantled an ambush that had us boxed in. 17 enemy KIA, all from precision fire and motion through the jungle. That's not luck. That's surgical violence at a level I've almost never seen." Devra gave a small shrug. "I was just doing my job." "Your job," he said, shaking his head, "was overwatch from a ridge. What you did was something else entirely." "What you did," Harlow said slowly, studying Devra, "was walk out of safety into enemy territory and take on superior numbers alone, in terrain that gave them every edge. That's not standard procedure. That's something else entirely." His tone softened, edged with respect. "The SEALs don't forget debts, Sergeant Shaw. You ever need anything? You've got an entire team ready to answer." Devra was about to reply when her commanding officer appeared, a colonel whose expression made it clear she was in for a lecture. "Staff Sergeant Shaw, a word." She followed him aside, already knowing what was coming. "You abandoned your assigned position," he began, voice firm. "Conducted unauthorized direct action and exposed yourself to extreme risk without clearing it through command." His eyes, though, told another story, equal parts pride and disbelief. "Do you realize how much paperwork I'll have to do to explain this?" "Yes, sir," Devra said evenly. "Probably less than you'd need if I'd stayed put and watched those SEALs die." The colonel paused, then exhaled. "You're right. But you're also reckless, insubordinate, and apparently allergic to following a simple overwatch order without turning it into a blockbuster." He shook his head. "I should charge you for half the violations in the manual." "Yes, sir." "Instead," he continued, "I'm recommending you for a Silver Star and a promotion. What you did saved American lives, showed skill and composure under impossible conditions, and proved exactly why Special Operations exists. But next time you decide to go lone wolf in enemy territory, at least tell someone first. My heart's not built for this." "Understood, sir," Devra said. He walked away, leaving her in the fading glow of the evening. She looked down at her rifle. The same weapon that had spoken 17 times in the jungle, never missing when it mattered most. It needed cleaning, care, but not before she processed what had just happened. 17 enemies down. One SEAL team alive. A mission that should have gone bad turned into something remarkable through nothing but precision, grit, and the refusal to stand by. Devra Shaw had stepped out of the shadows with her rifle blazing and reminded everyone why her kind of soldier existed. Because sometimes regular units couldn't finish the job. Sometimes you needed someone who could operate alone, think fast, and execute with surgical perfection. Sometimes the mission demanded walking straight into hell with nothing but confidence and a rifle, trusting you could tip the scales. The SEALs had whispered their convoy was surrounded. Devra proved that one operator, in the right place at the right time, could change everything. That was her job. That was who she was, and the jungle wouldn't forget. 3 months later, Devra stood before a classified board, accepting an award that wouldn't appear anywhere official. The operation in Mindoro was erased. No record, no trace. The ambushed convoy, the 17 kills, the ghost-like sniper who saved a team, it all became rumor. Yet among operators, the legend spread. The Army sniper who broke protocol, saved a SEAL unit, and vanished back into the trees. Details blurred with retelling, but the core stayed pure. One woman, one rifle, 17 enemies gone, 0 friendly losses. Lieutenant Commander Harlow attended the quiet ceremony with several from his team. Afterward, he found her, smiling faintly. "Offer still stands, Sergeant Shaw. You ever want to try out for the teams, I'll make it happen. We could use someone like you." Devra smirked. "Appreciate it, sir, but I'm Army. We do things differently." "Different how?" "We don't need a whole squad to get the job done. Sometimes one soldier with a rifle is enough." Harlow laughed. "Fair. Still, what you did is already making sniper school curriculum. They're calling it Shaw's Gambit, leaving cover to move mobile and break an ambush. They're naming it. Everything in the military gets a name. Most sound like bad acronyms, but this one's actually good." He offered his hand. "Thanks again, for everything." Devra shook it, feeling the calluses of a man who'd also lived on the edge. "Just doing my job, sir." "No," Harlow said, shaking his head. "You didn't just do your job. You went way beyond it, and that made all the difference." He paused, then reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. "The team wanted you to have this. It's not official, won't show up anywhere, but it means something to us." Devra opened it slowly. Inside was a gold trident pin, the emblem of one of the world's most elite brotherhoods. But this one was different. It had been altered. Engraved on the back with 17 small tally marks and the words, "One shot, one life saved. Mindoro 2024. "We each added a mark," Harlow said quietly. 17 shots for 17 enemies you took down. 17 reasons we're all still alive. In the teams, we take care of our own. And after what you did, you're one of us. Unofficially, off the books, and completely against regulations. But one of us all the same." Devra turned the pin in her fingers, feeling not its physical weight, but the symbolic gravity behind it. The unspoken respect of operators who didn't give it lightly, who'd seen her perform under impossible odds. "I can't wear this," she said softly, her voice catching despite herself. "We know," Harlow replied. "That's why we boxed it. Keep it somewhere private. Look at it on the bad days. Remember that 17 men went home because you were willing to walk into hell for them." His tone shifted, serious now. And Shaw, next time command gives you an Overwatch mission and something in your gut tells you it's wrong, trust that gut. We did, and we're alive because of it. Santos appeared at her shoulder, the same spotter who'd watched her every move through glass in that jungle. The brass calls it unauthorized initiative. The rest of us just call it saving our asses. I've done 12 deployments, worked with plenty of snipers, never seen anything like what you did. Devra gave a faint smile. The situation required adaptation. It required nerves of steel and marksmanship most shooters only dream about, he countered. I saw you through that scope, outnumbered, outgunned, in their backyard, and you never missed. That's not training. That's instinct. That's what separates good operators from legends. Reese and Holt joined them, completing the circle of the team that had spent those tense 3 days on the ridge. Command's already got another op lined up, Reese said. Same setup, Overwatch for a SEAL extraction, different country. They specifically asked for you as team lead. Said they need someone who, quote, thinks creatively under pressure. Devra raised an eyebrow. That's code for someone who breaks rules when the rules get people killed. Holt grinned. Exactly. So you in? Devra looked down at the trident in her palm, then around at the faces of her team. People who trusted her judgment, who'd seen her do the unthinkable, who understood that sometimes the right call didn't look right on paper. When do we leave? She asked. 72 hours, Reese replied. Better start packing. 6 months later, Devra Shaw was back in the jungle, a different country, a different mission, but the same truth. Evil men were doing evil things, and someone had to stop them. Sometimes that someone was a squad, sometimes a whole unit, and sometimes it was just one operator with a rifle, emerging from the shadows to remind the world that in special operations, numbers mattered less than skill, courage, and resolve. This mission went smoothly. The SEALs extracted their target without a shot fired. Devra's team stayed hidden on high ground, scanning through scopes, silent ghosts in the canopy. By every measure, it was perfect, but Devra never relaxed her guard. Her rifle stayed ready, eyes sweeping the tree line. She'd learned long ago that perfect missions could go bad in seconds, and the cost of complacency was written in body bags. As the helicopter lifted them out, Santos leaned closer over the roar of rotors. Kinda disappointed we didn't get to shoot anyone. Devra smirked. Best missions are the ones where nobody dies, but if someone had to, I'd rather it be them than us. That's what makes you different, Santos said. Most people crave the fight. You only fight when you have to, and when you do, you're the deadliest one there. Devra nodded. That's what makes a good operator. Knowing when to fire and when to hold. Anybody can pull a trigger. It takes wisdom to know when it's the right call. Back at base, her commanding officer caught up with her. Shaw, your silver star came through. Full ceremony in 2 weeks. Family invited, the whole production. Devra sighed. Can I skip it, sir? Not big on speeches. Absolutely not, he said with a grin. You did something extraordinary, and the Army intends to recognize it. Even if most of what you did is still classified, the world deserves to know courage when it sees it. And though she wouldn't say it aloud, Devra knew he was right. Some acts didn't need medals to matter, but this one would live on, told quietly in the way soldiers remember greatness, under the voice of Old Bill's tales. Her legend would echo. 17 enemies down, 1 team saved, and one woman who proved that sometimes one steady rifle can change the course of a war. Even if most of what you did, 90% of it, remains classified, we can at least acknowledge that you showed extraordinary valor under fire, the colonel said, softening a little. Devra, take the recognition. You earned it. More importantly, it sends a message to every young soldier who doubts that women can operate at the highest levels. You proved they can. Own that. The ceremony took place at Fort Mason, attended by senior officers, fellow Special Operations personnel, and Devra's team. Her parents had flown in from Oregon. Her father, a retired Marine, proud in his dress blues. Her mother, a schoolteacher who still struggled to grasp what her daughter did, wiping silent tears as the citation read, "For conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity in action against an enemy of the United States." The words felt hollow to her. She hadn't been thinking of gallantry when she left that ridge. She'd been thinking of SEALs dying while she watched from safety. She'd thought that having the skill to intervene and choosing not to use it was a worse crime than any physical danger. After the ceremony, a young woman approached, no more than 20, fresh from basic, eyes full of stars. "Ma'am, I want to do what you do. I want to be a sniper. Any advice?" Devra saw herself in that kid. Eager, stubborn, ready to prove the world wrong. "Be twice as good as everyone else," she said. "Work twice as hard, and never quit just because someone says you can't." "How do I get into sniper school? How do I prove I'm good enough?" the girl asked. "Start with the fundamentals. Marksmanship, fieldcraft, fitness, mental toughness," Devra replied. "Make yourself so undeniably competent they can't say no. When your chance comes, and it will, don't just meet the standard. Bury it so deep they have no choice but to accept you." The young soldier nodded, resolve hardening. "Thank you, ma'am. I won't let you down." "Don't worry about letting me down," Devra said. "Worry about meeting your own standard. Make it so high everyone else has to rise to meet you." The jungle had been her element. Darkness, her ally. Her rifle spoke in a language enemies learned to fear. Devra Shaw, the staff sergeant who'd saved a SEAL team alone, the sniper who'd made 17 impossibly precise shots under brutal conditions, had become more than a fighter. She'd become a mentor who would push a new generation, male and female, to understand that excellence knows no gender and that sometimes one trained person at the right moment can change everything. She kept the sealed trident in a small box in her gear room, among other mementos from missions that never officially existed. On bad days, she'd take it out to remember what it symbolized. 17 people alive because she'd been willing to risk everything. 17 families who got their loved ones back. 17 reasons her decision to leave that ridge had been right, even if it broke every rule in the book. The jungle remembered. The SEALs remembered. Devra Shaw carried those memories into whatever darkness came next, with her rifle ready and her resolve steady, because that was her job. That was what she did. She wouldn't stop until no one else needed saving, until there was no darkness left that required a muzzle flash to light it. One shot at a time. One life at a time. One mission at a time until the job was done. Under Hekitrintum. Old Bill's Tales. Every woman's story worth telling gets heard.